Hey, it's Brent Kastanowski of the Brent and Brenda real estate team. Back today, I'm with Patrick Ritchie. Patrick is he's a number of things. Loan officer, he's also author. The credit roadmap kind of tells you how to fix your credit. Also, somewhat of an expert on identity theft, and I think that's a big topic out there today. I mean, maybe it doesn't necessarily apply to buying a house, but you know, the key to this is when we're thinking about buying a home, we want to make sure our credit's in great shape. And identity theft is huge out there right now. And first off, Patrick, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Talk a little bit about identity theft. You know, how big of a problem is it in today's world? And you know, what are some of the steps you can do to kind of negate being a victim of that?
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and obviously, I mean, you hear the commercials on the radio and television, you see it in print in terms of, you know, pay for identity theft protection. I mean, it's a huge industry. It's a concern for almost everybody, as it should be, because it's not something that you want to go through. Now, my advice for people is to do what's called a security freeze. A security freeze is something that comes out of state law. Now, your state could be different. Here in Arizona, we don't necessarily have a right to freezing our credit report, but we could freeze our credit report by going to each of the three credit bureaus' websites. You go individually to Experian.com, Equifax.com, TransUnion.com, and search the term within their website. Search the term security freeze. So there's about, I think it's 27 states that have it as a state law, okay, where those citizens have a right to freeze their credit report. And there's different stipulations in terms of cost. Generally speaking, though, if you have a police report, there's not going to be a cost. If there is a cost, it's very minimal, and it varies by state. But generally, you're talking somewhere between $5 to $10 to $15 to have the credit report frozen, and that could be for each of the three bureaus. So maybe you're looking at a worst-case scenario of $45 if you're talking $15 for each of the bureaus, and you don't have a police report. So now the protection, the reason that this is so important is because I find that many consumers tell me, oh, well, my credit's protected because I have a fraud alert. Well, I gotta tell you, a fraud alert, when you place a fraud alert on your credit report, it does next to nothing. It's not going to stop anybody from doing anything. I see fraud alerts on almost every credit report that probably every other credit report that I pull. Right. And it doesn't stop anything. The beauty of the security freeze is that it makes the credit report inaccessible. So if I took an application for a mortgage and somebody has their credit report frozen, I have all of their information. I would typically just type it all in, boom, I've got the credit report, you know, in a few seconds. But if their credit report is frozen, if they've got a security freeze in place, I can't access their credit report until they give me a 4-digit PIN code. Once I have the PIN, then I can access it, and that PIN's good for 30 days.
Yeah, and so that's kind of really more the ultimate protection. It basically stops anybody from opening a new line of credit because nobody's going to, no company is going to offer credit to somebody if they can't access your credit report.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, kind of the key thing. So fraud alert, yeah, it's a nice little safeguard, but doesn't really do a whole lot.
Don't rely on it.
Yeah, don't rely on it. Security freeze. So let's just say if you are a victim of identity theft, what are the necessary steps? I mean, we talked about, I think when we sat down earlier, we talked about making sure we contact the police.
Yeah, police report is huge because under federal law and the Fair Credit Reporting Act, if you provide a police report to the credit bureaus showing that you were a victim of fraud, as long as you give them that police report, they are barred from reporting that on your credit report, which is huge because if you've got a situation where somebody has gone out and opened up a credit card in your name, and of course now it's become delinquent, it's maybe gone to collection, if you can show, hey, this was part of fraud, and you have a police report, they can't report that on your credit report. And that's huge because the problem with identity theft is proving that you were actually a victim. Exactly. And that's the big issue because it's just this thing that happens, and many times people don't discover it until when? When do you think they discover it?
When they're ready to buy a house.
When they're ready to buy a house.
Ready to make a major purchase.
Exactly. That's when people discover these things. And so it becomes very frustrating. And so the first step is to get a police report. The second step is to then contact the creditor that's involved and speak to their fraud department and fill out a fraud affidavit, put it on record that this was not you, that this was fraudulent, that you never opened up this account. Now, you're probably going to be protected in that regard once you have the fraud alert, not the fraud alert, but the the fraud affidavit filled out with the creditor, and you have a police report. That should take care of everything, but Was that the only thing that happened? That's the other question. Is there other stuff out there? You know, sometimes you get an issue where somebody goes to an emergency room and they use a person's social security number. So you might have collections that show up years later because, especially with medical collections, it's not going to show up immediately. It could be years.
Yeah.
So getting that police report, that could cover a lot of different things.
Fantastic. So if you are a victim, key is always contact the police. Get a police report, and then make sure you contact the creditor involved to make sure you fill out a fraud alert. And really, I think you hammered home the point on the very beginning is that check into the security freeze. Mm-hmm. That will basically allow you to almost a foolproof way to avoid.
Almost, yeah. I mean, it really. If somebody had my information and they walked into any store out there, because pretty much every store offers a credit card. I'm waiting for the fast food places to start offering 10% off your meal to get their credit card, and so you can get a credit card on every corner at every store. And so somebody has a good credit score and somebody has your information and they make an ID with their face, with your information, and they go and they open up a credit card that day and then make a large purchase, well, it's pretty easy, you would think, to commit a crime. So if you have a security freeze in place, you thwart their crime because that credit report can't be pulled by that merchant, and so they're not going to issue credit because in the absence of the credit report, they're not going to approve it, and so you protect yourself, and then they're going to find a different victim. So the security freeze really does allow you to sleep easier at night, but you still want to monitor the credit report simply for the fact that things can still show up. You know, freezing your credit report is not going to prevent somebody from stealing your credit card number and then using your credit card fraudulently. So we always want to watch our statements on that. It's not going to prevent somebody from medical fraud, as far as going to, as I mentioned earlier, emergency room visit. So it doesn't protect you in that sense, but it protects you from somebody going out and applying for credit in your name and being granted credit in almost every instance.
Yeah, so I think the key is you can't stop it entirely, but there's definitely certain steps you can take, and I think that's a big deal, especially if you're planning on buying a home in the next 6 months or so, and you want to kind of like make sure that you're on the right track and that you get the best available terms out there. You want to make sure your credit score is huge. Yep. You want a copy of the credit roadmap? Or you have questions about improving your credit score, ways to safeguard your credit score, how do they get in contact with you, Patrick?
You can always email me at patrick@thecreditroadmap.com. Or if you have mortgage questions, if you want to make an application for a mortgage, give me a call on my cell phone, 480-203-4641. Always available to answer questions and help people out. So.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much. As always, I hope you found this helpful. We always ask you and invite you to visit us online at www.brentandbrenda.com or give us a call, 602-380-2049 for more information.